Fantastic. So to begin, some technical things. Go onto your mobile-enabled device, phone or tablet, whatever, and open your browser and go to that URL. It will always be on screen. Right now it's on the top right. Right now it's on top. Just go over here, glsr.it/neuro220. And once you are in, you should then be able to answer this question. The email, by the way, is meant for you to get the slides immediately after the presentation. Nothing else will be sent to you. This mic is really good. I feel like I can hear my lips. We have 100% marketing. Those are always the fastest. So I may have a misrepresentation then of the group. Who is other? Hands up for someone who's other. What are you? Okay, BI. There we go. Also BI. It's good. Glad to have you guys here. Anything else than BI who's also other? Marketing and BI. Great. All right. That's good. I mean, it's mostly marketeers. That's what I expected. I feel like I should introduce myself. So hello everyone, my name is Jonathan Moore, CEO and co-founder of Neuroflash, but also, well, a persuader of sorts. So I've done a whole lot of competitive debating in my years. I try to optimize an approach to get the telephone number of people that previously did not know me. And I studied psychology for many years, for over 8 years, before I got into data science. You could say I'm what they call a frustrated academic, because it has always been my goal to really understand what drives people. Why do they think the things that they think? Why do they then do the things that they do? And just using, for example, this audience now would already be a large sample in academia, whereas of course in the real world that's a tiny, tiny sample. So I got very jealous of Facebook and Google, and I actually then joined them. I did some studies using Facebook data, millions and millions of those data points before Cambridge Analytica was a thing also. Even though, to be fair, Michal Kosinski, the guy who did the initial studies, also advised us on our methodology. All consenting adults that were doing our study, of course. But what I'm going to tell you is really about the combination of psychology and behavioral economics, what we would call digital psychology. I want to start with saying that marketing is in many ways a really, really weird job, because you're trying to say something without actually saying it. So you're all trying to get someone out there to, in the end, buy. But in the rarest of cases, would you say, buy this? Only at the very end you would say, buy this now, get it now. Of course, then the decision has already been made, but everything else leading to that decision, to that click of that button, is already content that should make people think, I want to buy this. Already mentioned, psychology and behavioral economics is what we're going to talk about today. And to illustrate this really weird combination of those two things, you tell me now, how long did you shower today? Okay. 10%. I'm very glad that somebody took a bath. That's awesome. Thank you very much. Next question, equally important. How exactly did you do it? Yeah, the habits of really effective people is obviously the last one that nobody chose. You shock yourself awake and then you get into the flow. Very good. So why would I ask these weird questions? It's because people who shower warmer and who shower longer are also on average more lonely. And that's fun, but there's something behind it, of course, which at the end of my talk, I hope you'll understand. So I'm going to talk about personalization and all of the human traits. This you won't remember anyways, but I want to make one thing very clear. What I'm going to talk to you about is not new at all, right? You see this lady, she has some stuff, people bought this, also bought. This is something that already exists. And yes, recommendations are indeed extremely helpful to get people in a certain direction. But that is pretty much solved. So why should you personalize? Why should you change your content to reach certain people in different ways? Well, let's imagine we have a Facebook campaign. This is an actual case. It's a beauty retailer. They are targeting women using Facebook ads, and we have two different variants, left and right. So, since you're all marketeers, which one do you think works better? Ooh. We need to say there are also BI people in the room, right? Maybe they mess up the whole statistics. Interesting. Can I ask you, BI, what did you choose? Okay. He chose left. So the right one is actually the one. So on average, that one has 35% higher conversion on average. However, which one works better for introverts? Take a look again. Whoa, that's a very even split. Slight favor for right. So in fact, let me remove this. Extroverts see a 75% increase for the left image, and introverts are 45% higher on the right. So we have two things to keep in mind here, right? There's one that seems to get the audience better, which is the right one. But if you can target to either the extroverts or the introverts, then you're going to see these increases. The way that they did it, by the way, is using this Cambridge Analytica insights in a way, because obviously the papers have been published and they're very well done, where you can see which likes on Facebook indicate whether a certain group of people is more extroverted or introverted. And if you use that for your targeting, well, now you can use some type of personalization to get higher results. Critically, it's not only the image, of course. They also use text. So they're going to say something like dance like no one's watching, or beauty doesn't have to shout. We're going to get into the text and these associations later on. So the image I'm going to use throughout is this bullseye. We have our target in the middle. They need to buy. They need to think about buying. And now I've already shown you two different ways. For example, targeting an extrovert or an introvert. And some of the associations that you may use expressed through images or words in order to reach that point more effectively. Now the question is, of course, what about your content? Like this one. What is the target audience? What will the average person think? What will the different segments think? When they see this, we have cozy moments. Who's that better for? Maybe an introvert? How about this one? The time to celebrate. And is there congruence throughout? So if you choose to do cozy here, is that reflected in the whole story? Or would an introvert person feel lost if the next sentence is, now it's time to celebrate? My point here is, in the end, we're dealing with someone in front of the computer who is, well, he's not an advanced machine, so to say. He is how God made him. He is very much basic. And I'm going to you're going to see throughout how much that is true. And I also want to always point out the shower is capturing everything that I'm going to say, so please keep thinking about being under the shower. So, why personalize? Because it works. It is more effective. Now let's start with these fundamentals. What makes this Neanderthal and all the other people around us similar? Well, we all know the Maslow pyramid of needs. In fact, who doesn't know this pyramid? No one. Fantastic. So it's a very interesting one. You can see physiological needs. You need to have sustenance. You need security, and you kind of go up, and they become more and more lofty. It's really like going up to a mountain above the clouds. Interestingly, brand building usually happens from the top down, right? Coca-Cola is not telling you this is a fizzy drink that will quench your thirst. They're telling you this will give you friendship, right? So it's very much going from the top down. Nowadays, of course, it's quite incomplete, because what you need for all of that, it's the internet. You need to be connected. Even worse, of course, you need the battery to sustain the internet to be connected. But we're talking about this combination of psychology and behavioral economics. And for websites, there are some fundamental things that our brains do that are very important to remember. One is what Amazon is doing. I just did this today. You can see great flat TV. And what you can see down here is that they have a list price. This is called price anchoring. So the first price that I see is going to be quite high. And now you can see, well, their price, 40% savings, great. So they define the rules. They define the high price and then the actual price. Whereas you can find the same TV cheaper on other platforms without this at all. But it now seems cheaper because you've done this price anchoring. Very effective. You can have items in your shopping on your shopping website which are pure decoys that are very expensive, but that make everything else seem rather cheap. So you don't want people to buy it, but having it on the website will make other things appear like a better deal. The other thing, which is very, very important if you talk about people abandoning their cart, is the need to complete. So what does Amazon do when they show this? They give me the path to success. And everything being equal, humans love to complete things, right? They want to solve the puzzle. They want to make this complete. Something like this, you're like, I wish I could just put that piece in. And it's the same with humans. So if you give them a task, they do want to complete it. So definitely try to visualize it, help them to fulfill that need. And lastly, even though there are many more, this one, you search for something and it tells you, well, this one is really popular, many people have booked it. The need here, or the fundamental construct behind it, is loss aversion. So you don't want to miss out. The fear of missing out is a very powerful trigger, even though one could argue whether or not these numbers are in fact accurate. What happens, nevertheless, is that our system thinks, well, I need to act fast, I really need to get this. You can read many more of those, because we don't have time to go over all of them, here at digitalpsychology.io. All about these, very, very interesting read, very practical for what you're trying to achieve. You're going to get the slides, so no need to write this down. So what I'm trying to say here is, we have our goal, we want people to buy, but there are things that connect everyone who wants to buy, and those are the needs, the human needs, functional and human benefits. You have a product, it keeps people warm, it gives them, well, something to wear, for example, or something to make food, very functional, basic needs. And then once you have those defined and you're clear on them, then you can start using certain association streams, persona A, persona B, in order to get them to buy. But what is this whole personality thing anyways? In fact, I would argue that we oversimplify, overcategorize personalities a lot. We do it because it's easy. So, I was at the doctor's the other day with my girlfriend, and it was a terrible experience. The doctor we were talking to was like totally unresponsive. She didn't really help us. She didn't give us any clues on what to do, where to go next, etc. It was really, really terrible. So we naturally thought that she was like a really terrible person. But we have no idea whether that person had a terrible day. Maybe she by accident, killed her cat. We don't know. So what we do, however, we immediately attribute this bad experience with her personality. So we're going to say she was a B word. This is something that we do all the time, unless it is about us. Because if we have a bad day, well then everybody will understand that obviously we have a bad day, so our behavior shouldn't be judged. It shouldn't make people think that we have that type of personality. You're totally stressed out. Well, that is the reason why you are like that. So we always oversimplify attribution. We always put people in boxes. But that is completely incorrect. Throughout the day, you will have very, very different needs, very different associations active, very different types of behavior. The same person on a Saturday evening, vegging out and watching Netflix, needs different communication than that person on Monday on LinkedIn, thinking about his career. Same person, very different circumstances. In fact, if you would take the same personality test in two languages that you know, let's say English and in German, your personality would be different because the associations that you have in your language actually inform your decisions on the personality test. Personality, by the way, is very interesting nowadays because brands like About You use personalities that are established, that have a certain target audience, quite effectively. And again, I'm going to change your marketing knowledge. You're going to have 3 different images, posts from the same influencer. Now you tell me which one gets the most likes. Thank you. Someone thinks that the woman actually doing her job, would get some likes. Pretty clear results. So, what's the actual answer? Well, the one on the left got the most. The one that expresses warmth. Why did I show you that? It's because just looking at the content alone gives you no clue on how effective it is. Because the channel that she's on, people, the audience, the personas that are watching her content, they get something back from them. They already have an expectations, they are fulfilling a need that she can, she caters to. She gives warmth. She's like this best friend. And that is what people respond to. They want to see the smiling person. They want to feel like they could be next to them on that balcony. And that is what makes them like her. It could be very different for someone else. Nicki Minaj gets likes for other reasons, right? And not for her hair, by the way. So what is important here is that we need to always be attentive to, well, indeed, who is it reaching? What is the need that's being fulfilled? And the analysis that you see here, by the way, is something that we've done across a couple of thousands of her posts, and we always checked which associations were triggered, like, for example, here, warmth because of the sun and the smile, etc., and then other ones, and how much they contribute to likes or comments. Now, what are the needs that are being fulfilled when you are in the shower, or that are maybe not fulfilled if you're lonely? So, what are human needs? They are definitely biological. Yes, we need to have something to drink. Yes, we need to have shelter, etc. But needs are constantly activated by the context of the here and now. If you are watching that influencer's channel, then you have certain needs that are currently being fulfilled by her. If it's Saturday evening, it's something else. If you're with your friends, you do sports, it's something else. But, do you have a friend that is kind of introverted, never talks to you, but when you go out and she has 1 or 2 drinks, she gets kind of different? Keep in mind that the people shopping on your sites are not always sober. All right, human attention, number 3 of 6. It's funny that this gets so many laughs. It's like some of you are like, yeah, I did that yesterday. All right, so human attention. And for this, I want to show you a little video. So to illustrate human attention, I'm going to show you an ape, which is very close to us. Let's see whether that works. Okay, so as a background, these are monkeys that are being experimented on. What happens, it's behavioral tasks, so no worries. They are getting a stone, they need to give the stone back, and they get a reward. And the reward usually is cucumbers, which is totally fine. They love cucumbers, it's a great, great food. But you'll see that once you bring something new in the mix, things change.
So she gives a rock to us, that's the task. And we
right,
give her a
gets
piece
the
of
rock.
cucumber and she eats it. The other one needs to give a rock to us. And that's what she does. And she gets a grape.
So she gets a grape,
So the other one sees that.
which is totally different.
She gives a rock to us now, gets again
back.
cucumber.
So keep in mind for a second, that it's totally normal to get a cucumber for this task. That is not an issue. And she, apes, the monkeys, they love these cucumbers. Again, the grape.
She tests the rock now against the wall. She needs to give it to us. And she gets cucumber again.
Okay. So what happened is that there is an expectation. There's a meaning that usually gets triggered in this context. Usually you get the cucumber, but if you don't, then yeah, that monkey is going to pay a lot of attention to that, and as you can see, think about it and then react. Quite a lot. So there's a lot of noises all around us, be it marketing, advertising, whatever. But also in the forest, when this rabbit is all, living, there will be certain noises that are out of the ordinary that will make the rabbit put up the ears. And that's what attention is all about. It's something that doesn't fit. And for marketing, it's very interesting how attention needs to be used. Because marketing is this weird job where if you follow all the rules, then the rules change. And you can see this in front of the retail shop, because I'm now a shopper, and I have this association in my mind that I need milk. So I see this, and I'm looking for the representation of milk, something that makes me say there's probably milk in it. But then there's other things here, like yogurt, and it looks very different. So you need to market the product so that I can very quickly see what's the difference between these two things. But once I found my category, then you need to stand out. Because now, for example, you need to have this brown thing where I'm like, oh, this is also something that I want, but it's a little bit different, so I'm going to pay attention to that. So you need to be able to get the category, what you want, but then you need to be a little bit different in order to get the attention so people, notice it and maybe go deeper and are like, oh, what is this? Let me take a look. Maybe I want to buy it. It's really the moving goalpost that is so difficult for marketeers to always optimize, to always, strive for the associations that are ever changing. And another illustration is this one. Would you trust your children with a self-driving car? Mostly no. So a very similar problem has happened before, because before we had the automobile with wheels, we had cars that were driven by horses that were in front of them. So in order to bring in that innovation, it took actually many, many years, but the way that marketeers back then did it was like this. So they combined the thing that people were used to, and they put it in front of the thing that was new. It's like putting the pill into the sausage for the dog, right? It's the thing that he likes, but there's also the medicine in there. But it's the same principle. So as a marketeer, you need to decide, is it something new where I need to trigger old associations, old schemas, old things so that it can easily be processed? Or do I do something new because I want to trigger them to stand still for a second and maybe look at the content, look at the product a little bit more closely? So attention really needs to be considered in both ways. Is it out of the ordinary? How much is it out of the ordinary? And how much do I want that? And with that, we come to the subconscious. Because we have fundamental human needs, they're all the same, mostly the same. Then we have attention, which can be triggered, can be, crafted by the content that you have. But in the end, a lot of things are happening that are not conscious, that we cannot really control. Indeed, a Harvard professor says that 95% of purchasing decisions are made subconsciously. So let me see how that affected you. Do you think that traditional Chinese medicine is at all effective? Ooh, that's a big split. Sometimes. So only 1/3 thinks that it's not effective. Well, to my scientific knowledge, looking at, randomized placebo-controlled studies, double-blind, they're not at all effective. You can just as well, eat globally or, just not do nothing. It's the same. But why would people even consider this to be effective? Because I don't care whether it works or not. What we all should care about is what people out there think, whether it's effective or not. The reason why many people think it is, it's because it triggers many associations that we connect with trust. We have old traditions, we have stuff that comes from nature, it's a big topic anyways, sustainable medicine, etc. We have all these nice things, calligraphy that we can attach to it. It comes with a lot of positive baggage, so to say. Talking about positive or negative baggage, we have the same when we consider men and women. Not only as personas, but also when we consider our perception. In Germany, there are unfortunately more board members called Thomas than there are women being board members. And it's because if you look at the associations, again, in our culture, it's easier for our brains to think of man and manager. Let me gonna do a quick, why not? So, quick riddle. A father and a son are in the car, and they both crash against a tree. The father is instantly killed, but the son is being rushed to the emergency room, where the doctor in charge comes in and says, "Oh my God, that is my son." How is that possible? Do you know? That's right. It's the mother. Who knew that right away? 3 people. There's only 2 people, right, that could say that. It's the father and the mother. But because I said doctor, your brain couldn't think of it because it was so much easier to connect man and doctor. Which is crazy. But that is how our brains work most of the time. Because in fact, it doesn't act logically. It gives us the things that come easy to mind, and we misinterpret the things that come easy to mind as probably being true. I studied neuropsychology, and they taught us that the brain isn't made for thinking. It is made for letting us survive most effectively, and that often means you just reach your conclusions very quickly. You meet someone who is very unfriendly, and you immediately say, "Unfriendly person," and you're done with it. If it's a friend, well, then maybe you ask, because that person you have to spend more time with, etc. It pays off to do so. But in general, we use these heuristics. What comes easy to mind, we misinterpret to be true. In fact, this is what our brain is doing. There's a goal, you want fitness, but you still take the escalator there. By the way, also notice what I just did, because this also illustrates how associations are used for personalization and for transmitting information. Well, one is we have now a frame. We have a brand frame, because all of this comes with the authority of this publication. Just like your website carries the brand name prominently at a certain position. And then you have the content, which can be influencer content, or as you can see here, I used Harvard professor, subconscious, and marketing, because, well, I wanted to increase credibility and relevance. Marketing, subconscious is the theme, and Harvard professor obviously carries a lot of that. In fact, that is what technology can do nowadays. This is our Chrome extension where we just check how much are words on this page associated with credibility. And easy to see, Harvard professor, subconscious, and not marketing, by the way, are associated with credibility. Right? So this is really something to remember. You're creating a context frame, which very often is the brand, and you have content in the middle, which is in the focus of mind, but it always radiates out. Because after this, I will think actually that the Inc. magazine, is a bit more, Harvardly, because it's talking about Harvard and about smart things. So, the big question now is, as we know all that, and I've given you ample evidence to support this association hypothesis, why do we think like that? And again, I will illustrate with an example. In the US, what is more likely? Being hit by lightning or being shot in one of those school shootings? Getting killed, indeed. I'm really good at splitting you guys in the middle. And I truly wonder whether this is like a marketing BI split. Pretty much 50-50. Okay, so it is 10 times more likely to get hit by lightning than to get shot and killed during one of those school shootings. And just like with the doctor, it was easier for your mind, for your brain to think about it, because I actually cued you, I primed you with the US. And when I say the US, you have a lot of associations. I'm very sorry about the big one that you may have right now, but when it comes to school shootings, it's also, again, easier to recall instances where that was true. So you predict the occurrence rate of something that comes easy to mind. So in the end, what is quite interesting here is that, in fact, all we think about, what is easy to think about, is what has made it into our heads. So all of the media that we have consumed, what you read this morning, what you read about Trump, the US, school shootings, all of that is all the time informing the things that you think. With any word, why would the word Harvard have such a positive connotation? Because it is in the connection with people who are powerful, smart, and high up on social status. And your brain makes these leaps all the time, otherwise you wouldn't be able to understand my words. The reason why you get something out of my talk is because the words I say have a similar connotation, have similar associations in my head as they have in your heads. So we think like that because our brains gets that information. It gets, we would call it a co-occurrence, two things appearing together, and after that happening long enough, we form this bond. And in marketing, that's what you do every day. You put out an ad, you have the frame of the brand, you put in nice associations, and people then associate that with the brand, and that's how you build it. What is critical, though, is it's always what appears important that we then connect. So yeah, what is it that happens under the shower that we may connect with things that again have relevance for being lonely or not lonely? So much about the human subconscious. So 95%, very high number, Harvard professor, very credible, but in the end it's about things determine what your consumers on the site will do that are not obvious. And again, the reason why you don't say, trust me, or you don't say, buy this, is because that then goes into the conscious mind. Because if you tell a consumer right away, buy this or trust us, he will think about it. And then he can just easily find reasons why that's not true. Whereas if you take the subconscious route, it's actually the associations that you trigger that are not controlled by the conscious, that are way easier to then, stir in the direction that you want. And that is then also what personalization is all about, the ability to do that in a systematic way. So to finish up the story about the subconscious, where are our brains today? Well, they are, not very surprisingly, very much online. So these are the minutes per day spent on either the computer, streaming or on the TV, and you can see easily that the internet is taking over there. So more and more what people think is determined by what they see online. Right here, on your website, on social media, on spiegel.de, all those different sites. And obviously, very often, people show me this picture and they're like, oh, yeah, they're on the mobile phones, but back in the days it was exactly the same. But I say, how often have you sat with your significant other, with your wife, boyfriend, and they just took out a newspaper in the middle of your conversation and they started reading it? These phones, these devices are very much optimized to trigger us, give us push notifications, as we just heard, in order to very effectively get our attention in all the right circumstances. But the key here is that the knowledge that goes into our heads is online. So now, if we want to use technology, data science, in order to predict what is in the subconscious, we need obviously to look at everything that is online. And we have, and I'm going to show you the results now. And for that, we're going to do the final association test, I think, yeah. So for that, we're going to have two groups. This is group number 1, and this is group number 2. And all of you need to close your eyes now. Close your eyes completely and do not open your eyes. And now everyone in group number 1, open your eyes. Look at these words. Group number 1 is everyone on the right side, if you have forgotten. There we go. Okay, close them again. And now everyone in group 2, open your eyes and look at these words. And now close your eyes again. And now everyone in group 1 and 2, open your eyes and complete this word. Everyone open your eyes. Complete this word in your head. Again, everyone open your eyes. Some people are there we go. Complete this word in your head. Well done. So, what happened? Would it? Should it be? Is it? Oh, no, damn it. Those BI people again. So, what happened? Well, what you can see here, by the way, is apparently we have people that did pretty much exactly what I predicted. Well, what the machine predicted. To group 1, I showed the words on the left, and group 2, the words on the right. And what you did, what your brain did, is it made it very easy to think of either soup or soap. But again, critically, these words I did not think about. Like, they don't come from a human. The machine has produced these associations. And again, because these associations are so similar to what is in your head, the machine was able to make you think of something. And that is really what nowadays is possible using data science. We can have an interface. You can put in something that you want people to think about. You cannot quite put in buy, because that is not a thing that is necessarily, that doesn't work. But if you want people to think about soup, about trust, about fashion, about quality, you can get the associations out of it. And the same has happened here. We are able now to look at any content and see what would be easy for the brain to think about, and is this in line with what you want to achieve. And the way that we do it should be pretty obvious right now. Your brains act on the words that they have seen. Our machine brain does the same. We feed it billions and billions of words coming from mass media, coming from Wikipedia, coming from blogs and websites and your site. And even about 10% of social media goes in there. We also have influencers, transcripts, all that good stuff. Billions and billions of words with a window of 12 months. Then we use machine learning to create these very complex association networks, thereby gaining the ability to have any word and know the associations, and also know them in reverse, meaning that we can now predict the words that would make someone think something that we want them to think. And indeed, this doesn't only correlate very strongly with explicit associations, but also critically implicit ones. Doctor and man is close. Women and manager is far away. So it's implicit associations that are being captured. And you can even predict brain activation with this. Here's just another picture of showing you what type of data sources go in there. It's roughly comparable to like 50, maybe 60 public libraries, completely filled, completely read in by the machine, but then turned into the associations that are also in your heads. Because, and one of the things that the machine can actually help us now when it comes to creating content that is ideally shaped in order to evoke associations, that match your personas or match your general audience, you can enter things like great fashion and tell it needs to be high on competence and personal, and it immediately comes up with suggestions with actual content that you can use that will trigger people to think these things. And you can put in anything that you want here. You can say great bracelet, you can say amazing skirt, and it will always give you content that enables you to communicate associations that you believe at that point they need to have in their heads. So we are at a point where you now understand how associations are being created by you consuming content and how you could train a machine to predict associations. And again, imagine yourself in the shower. What are the associations that you may know that are being triggered while you're there, taking a warm and long shower? So let me give you some examples of how this works in action. Something very, very abstract, like trust, is really, really difficult to capture in marketing. It's such an abstract concept. And the same has happened to the Telecom, where they're selling machines here for the doctor to take on medical information, and they need to express trust. But you cannot say, trust me, because people who say that, they get into the system too. You can now consciously say, why would I trust you? Why would you say that? That's weird. So what we did is we actually found, and you can see it here in German and here in English, just the translation, that in fact comfort is associated with trust. Or here it's translated with security, here it's Sicherheit. So that means that we can trigger this association by using another word. And that is in fact what we have done. We have here put in the comfort for your institution. And indeed, after that change, after making people subconsciously think of the right thing, we increased the orders significantly, and we also increased the time people spent on the site. Again, the trick is to not say it directly, but to make it impossible for the brain to not think it by using associations that are around the topic that you want people to think about. So this is really the trick here, right? So you have this direction to get to the buy decision. You know that trust is a driver because it's a feature, it's something that you know from previous experience will work, but you don't say trust me, you use something like comfort and you get to the same result. But what about those personas? Well, what I'm trying to communicate here is that there's many different ways. And I think the best way is to think about current activated associations. So for example, it could be that someone who's more extroverted, maybe those are most people on your website, they would go for something like celebration and dancing. So celebrate great fashion with me would be a nice slogan for them. Let's dance in our new stuff. That's great. Another one could be for a different group, this calm and soft route, more introverted maybe. Absolutely, if you do that, well then optimize the content to be closer to those associations. There's one way that we haven't discussed yet, which is purely, this is sales time, this is a flash rebate, right? That obviously also works. But there's one problem with that, because in the end, all of this pays into your brand. So it doesn't matter where it is, the frame that people see it in will be influenced. And that is critical because obviously there are other brands that also share associations with you. So if you are the most competent guys in fashion, then there could be somebody else who also claims that. And you want to make it very easy for your consumers, obviously, to differentiate between those two effectively, so that the next time when they just generally think, I need to buy new stuff, that they think about your brand. So if you use too many of those sales associations, you get very undifferentiated, very samey. But it's things like trust, competence, these higher order things that you saw on Maslow's pyramid. They can actually help you with associations to also build your brand and be differentiated from the rest. But again, you are being differentiated by triggering associations over and over using your content. So if the question is, where on a page like this will people put their attention? If the question is, what type of associations would make people go on into a certain route? I want to illustrate how you do it first by understanding the shared needs. Because again, most people will have certain preferences, and if you can already hit them, you're going to have the biggest overall general win. And I'm going to show you this with a use case from Volkswagen, where very quickly we figured out what are the associations that are triggering people that look at content from Volkswagen. In fact, we looked at their online success, we looked at their Facebook channel, and we used as success all of the likes, shares, comments, etc. And we simply checked how are the words being used in their content related to their brand values, the brand values that next to the performance they want to strengthen. And we were able to see that words that were high on innovation and responsible are the successful ones, especially here, as you can see, the combination. So behind this is thousands of words, and here you can see are words that are high on both of these brand values. I'm showing you that also because a channel like that, a Facebook channel, already has a certain persona on there. Just like an influencer for About You is likely bringing a certain type of persona to your website. So if you understand where they're coming from, you can already deduce what type of associations they are expecting, like the warmth that you've seen before. So in this case, not only did we check out the innovation, the responsible, we then also checked what are other things that are high on those brand values that are able to drive the conversions, the engagement. And indeed, after doing that change and after optimizing the content to express more strongly these type of topics and thereby these type of values, we were able to increase the engagement rate here significantly. So the key message is, when you have your personas, everyone being on your side, well, these shared needs you need to figure out first, because that will ensure a baseline that is as optimal as possible. Because when it comes to these association routes, you have to think about the customer journey. And I think, again, if you look back to that personas are not very easily defined because you're different on Saturday than you are on Monday, it's easier to look at the journey. So if, for example, you have an influencer and he has now this image out there that is being clicked and it leads people to your landing page, the associations that they get will be in line with what they expect from this influencer. And as you can see here, very much all about, nature, kind of sunny, maybe some yoga. Okay, so kind of calm, kind of open, freedom, spirit, etc. Now, if they go to the landing page and they see something like this, which is all about the city, there's already a semantic mismatch. So you have now already you may have triggered their attention, but probably in the wrong way, because you wanted them to kind of flow through to go from freedom to more freedom and tree stuff to buying a rain jacket or something. So the best way to think about the content that needs to be optimized, I think, is to consider this jump and a possible break. How much can I have the associations triggered here, represented here, so that people immediately feel at home? Because again, why? It's the synergy. Why would an extroverted person think more about dancing and stuff? Because for them, those are things that they experience a lot. It's very easy for an extroverted person to think about dancing and talking and mingling, because that's what they do all the time. So you can kind of get the synergy by hitting in the same direction. And that is also the key here. You would lose momentum, you would lose synergy if you have a semantic meaning break. And then it would go on. Maybe I'm again here more into cozy, get more into green, but maybe then I'll get over here. Along the path, ensuring that there is congruence in the meaning is the best way to cater to personas. So I really suggest to have these funnels where you are clear on what is being created in the beginning, and ensure that there's a path through your site that follows up on what is most likely beneficial for that group. Because the people coming from here probably have very similar expectations. Yes, and that's how we can then also understand whether this, or at which point a story like this should be shown, or a story like this. So, to sum up. It is an interesting world out there, all super fancy. We have drones now, everything is digital. But in the end, we are dealing with fundamental psychology. The person in front of the computer may be drunk, but he's certainly still a human, and he is, full of the human needs and all of the very basic behavior that got into us thanks to evolution. What you've seen here is what is triggering attention. Sometimes you want it, sometimes you don't, but you always want to ensure that you do it, predictably, deliberately. Our brain is in a way, or the brain of your consumers, is predictable in the sense that it will always choose the shortest route to its goal. It doesn't want to burn glucose, that's expensive. It wants to get to a decision as quickly as possible, so you need to help them. And what is in their heads is the content that they have seen throughout their life and the content that you are showing them on the path to the shopping basket. This is when they are online, and this is, I think, the fundamental bullseye image. There's many ways to get to the buy activation. There's the shared need space, there's the baseline that you should increase, but then in the end it's about understanding the journeys, the likely associations of your personas that are going to get to buy something. And I think I've also tried to show you that we live in a world where I don't think yet machines can solve any of these very hard marketing problems. They can't. Yes, we can give you, creative inspiration. We can tell you, you don't need to think too hard about it, select from a list of things to say, but also, use your own brains. It's more like a sidekick, a co-pilot, using data science and the understanding of psychology in order to make you better marketeers. Okay, so who has figured this out? Why do lonely people shower longer? Oh, it should be hot. Lonely, alone. Thank you. So what associations are triggered by warmth under the shower that would be an antidote, a cure for loneliness? That must be a BI person. Come on, that is such an analytical answer there. Comfort, yes. And here we go. No partner, no warmth. Because indeed, warmth is social warmth. So when they looked at the people and they checked what they did, they even found that some of them would shower like this, right? They would kind of hug themselves even, because this whole warmth is associated with what they're missing. And in fact, there are studies, and this is very relevant for you if you're going to network. They put people in a lift next to a person and they didn't talk. They would just go up 2 stories and then go out again. But they would give the person either a warm coffee or a cold Coke. And at the end of their ride, they would ask, how did you like the person? They didn't talk, right? They just held their drink. But the people who held the warm drink thought that the person was warmer, more sympathetic, more likable. And the people who held the cold Coke, they thought the opposite. So if you network, wait for the person to have a warm drink, and then be like, hey, we should talk. So I hope that overall I've told you that associations are extremely relevant and that they can help you to shape content that is personalized and thereby more effective. And I hope that at the very end, next time that you're under the shower, that you think about me I mean the things that I have told you. Thank you very much. Any questions? You can also rate the talk and tell me what I could do better. But right now you can also ask questions. So here's the question. Who has a comment? Like, what do you think? Was something new in here?
I like the way you present when you make your
Awake? Yes. And content-wise, was there some a form follows function, you know?
something you're considering when you are creating content on social group.
Yes. Very true, yeah. Yeah. So yeah, fear of missing out. Obviously, everything that influencers do nowadays is very much also triggered with that. You want to be part. Yeah. Nice. So can I ask you, as a BI person, what did you learn that was new? Maybe new. It was too much new information?
No, it was new information.
Oh, fantastic. It was old news.
But I'm a psychologist myself.
Oh, fantastic. All right. Well then.
So I'm not represented.
No, indeed. Who was also from BI? I think you, right? Wait, you were also BI? Yeah. Did you learn something today?
Yeah.
Thank you. Very nice. vague answer. Go ahead.
With all this knowledge you have,
Yes.
how do you shop online? I mean, can you focus on the stuff you really want, or is it the same stuff that
Yeah, I've become extremely practical, to be honest. But due to running the company, running a startup, I think I have 6 people I need to give presents to, max 50 euros, and those are my limiting filter factors. And then try to do it in 2 hours. So no, but I think you get very conscious of that. I think to speak to your point, it's very difficult nowadays to look at anything that's happening. Take Trump's impeachment hearings, and not think how genius people are using associations to change public opinion. It is really quite amazing because, make no mistake, what I've told you, I'm very sorry that it wasn't completely new to some of you, but I hope that the impact is so vast. At the impeachment hearings right now, what they're doing is they're ensuring that the difference between what should be an impeachable offense and what people think is an impeachable offense gets normalized. So they are creating associations through repetition, through co-occurrence, through marketing, through the TV, that ensure that quid pro quo is something that we do all the time, right? So they normalize it. Because then, when do we think something is a crime? If it's out of the ordinary, it's not something that we want. And they are currently creating the association landscape where our brain wouldn't make that conclusion. It would more easily make the conclusion that it's totally normal. And that is being done all the time with us through everything, not only through marketing, but also in politics, which is nowadays nothing else than marketing on a bigger scale. Maybe there's one thing that I can leave you with. I think you as marketeers, you have tremendous power because the words that you use, the content that you create, gets seen by thousands and thousands of people. So yes, you can, mind the associations in order to get your goal, but I also hope that you mind that you are being influenced by them as well. Because while thousands of people will see it, you will see that piece of content more times than they will. So this feedback loop is something that I find fascinating, and I believe that if you mind the associations to achieve your business goals, but also associations that will make you happy, that you think can represent the brand, kind of follow your heart a little bit, I think you're going to be a better marketeer and a more happy marketeer in the end.
No more questions?
I mean, I do like my awkward silence.
I think you're open afterwards for questions.
Sure.